So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Percy Jackson. So let's start the series. Hestia was so called at the anguish and sudden disintegration of her domain that she hurried to discover its rotting origin. She then continued into Central Park, where she found a young man with blonde hair and a tan complexion, who seemed to be unconscious after being ingested by a huge fire pit, but was amazingly unharmed. The goddess extinguished it effortlessly with a brush of her palm. In addition to her passions, the boy's sense of family was also taken advantage of. By carefully approaching her subject, she was able to easily penetrate his mental terrain. She saw flashes of every adversity in his life, and she was so appalled by what she saw that she wouldn't even want to tell anyone about that life. Irrespective of how evil or corrupt the contemporary human race is. The boy from another dimension. From what she had seen thus far, the lad was trying to overthrow a single despot while fighting for his nation. The happiness that had been released by their triumph was quickly replaced by sorrow when Hestia watched the following scene. The child was losing his life, along with the family and friends he so deeply desired. In the latter minutes of his partner's struggle, a gasp cut off her mental search as he used all his effort to defeat his opponent. Something. After killing its friend, whom she now recognized as Naruto, a powerful creature created by their gods, utilized its remaining strength to carry the child from an unidentified place. The monster died knowing that its mate would live another life before merging its essence with the mortal. Naruto, the boy, always found a grin in spite of the grief, pain, and sadness that came out of every memory. What a wonderful strength. Hestia intended to touch his forehead lightly in order to subtly alter his recollections. It would be changed to fit the times, but all the significant events in his life would stay the same. She meant a lot when she said a bit. Ninja schools to regular schools, ninja forces to a military community, and a small hamlet to a secret village in Japan. Every emotional bond and development would stay the same. He would still have his skill, but it would be sealed for protection and used only in extreme situations. The child wouldn't be himself if she changed anymore. Naruto was going to get the life he deserved. Lady Hestia's careful eye and potent blessing would guarantee that Naruto had a guide in his new surroundings. She needed the child taken to the hospital, and her discovery would have to be kept a secret for the time being. By carefully controlling the fog over the burned patches of grass, she found the nearest individual who could call for Naruto's safety. She will not be going with Naruto herself because it was still too early for her to meet him. Before departing the scene, she called forth a wallet that included his most recent personal information, and changed his outfit to a simple t-shirt, black pants, and dress shoes. When she realized he looked too well groomed to be wounded, she stopped backing away. She snapped it off, causing his clothes to seem as tattered as his injuries. She would have the chance to send him memories and new necessities. Naruto may have had the worst headache of his life, and when he woke up, every muscle in his body was incredibly sore. His eyelids closed instantaneously when he was startled by a startling flash of light. After a few moments of slumber, he opened his eyes to see a pitch-white room. He glanced around and spotted a man carrying a clipboard, which was a blatant sign that he was at a hospital. He was wearing a white coat. How? He didn't know a thing. Why? Probably because he was being stupid. Again. Naruto, how do you want to cause more trouble in your life? Good morning, mister. I am Dr. Clarkson. I see that you have not had any struggles to move your neck around, and I'm assuming that the rest of your body would be fine as well. In order to carefully pull himself up to sit upright, Naruto had to work harder than usual. The doctor said, your body will be feeling sore for a few days, and you will need to be careful around your torso, due to a huge blow on your rib area. Naruto was grateful for the glass of water the doctor provided him, because he needed to quench his thirst. From what we have seen on your charts, you seem to have dealt with heavy hits from every corner of your body. Areas highlighted are on your ribs, head, and thighs. Are there any recollection to what happened? Dr. Clarkson asked, grabbing Naruto's glass and placing it on the side table. He shook his head. Last thing that pops in my mind is Central Park in the dark. After that, nothing else. On his clipboard, he wrote, I see. He went to the usual doctor's appointment before continuing with, you seem to have been mugged. A nearby citizen saw you on their walk thinking you were dead. Luckily, they called emergency after their shock. They only saw your wallet with you, no cash, no card, only your personal info. On your emergency contact was a representative of Heart Foundation. She came just a few days ago to check on you and to pay your medical bills. Once you're on the clear, you should be good to go. Naruto, though bewildered, nodded. The doctor examined him briefly before letting him rest, and he said, that's good. Odd. The teen just shrugged it off and went back to sleep. It seemed like he had not been still for just a few days when he was freed 2 days after waking up. Upon returning to school, he saw that oddly, none of the Nayu classmates appeared to be recognizable. He sighed. He was used to being by himself. Sitting comfortably in his art history class, Naruto said, I guess 18 still wasn't it. He was majoring in hotel management, so this was an odd choice, but he liked the topic. Silently, he flipped through his notes when he heard someone sitting next to him. He glanced at the adjacent seat. Hi. His cheeks turned a light pink as he smiled charmingly on a beautiful face. Hello, Naruto began, shaking her hand. My name is Naruto, and I'm from Japan. I'm majoring in hotel management. Before leaning into his personal space, the woman shook his hand and introduced herself. I'm Danielle Aru, from Arizona. Dance major. I've never seen you around the university before. I don't know, I'm probably extra cool today. It was Danielle's turn to flush as she saw that cute little smile that lit up his face. You're quite silly, aren't you? With a small smile. Well, if you're okay with having a silly friend from now on, then I'm quite fine with it as well. They smiled at each other and then at the professor who had just walked in. I adore silly. He whispered. So, LaRue. How Frenchy. The mocking was met by her response. Harem. Hey, I resent that. I'm as Japanese as it goes. She turned and scanned his face. It doesn't look like it, maybe just a little. He seemed to have won their little conversation when he folded his arms across his chest and stated, okay, maybe I'm part Japanese. Or maybe it's my made-up name and you just don't know it. You really are dumb, she remarked with a smirk. Yes, he lost. After all the excitement of the university exams, friends, and the post-exam celebration, he was exhausted. Naruto reclined on his bed with his arms and legs spread wide. Huffily, he surveyed his room. He smiled since it wasn't as empty as it had been previously, because it was covered in band posters. Mostly Beatles posters, actually. The fact that he now had several picture frames on his walls made him smile a little more. Photos of his friends from college, mostly of him and Danielle because, well, why not? She was his first friend in New York and is perhaps his best friend now. But the one he treasured most was the one of him with the arms of Mr. Luca Manf and Mrs. Eleonora Manf lying softly on either side of his shoulder. They were the elderly Italian couple that operated a cafe in the building adjacent to his house. Naruto adored the couple and sometimes visited them since he always felt at home with them, and they treated him like a grandson, and he felt like one himself. He remained smiling as he got out of bed to change. He was dressed in a simple white Cuban color shirt tucked in with black socks, black ankle boots, and navy blue formal slacks. Naruto was quite proud of his accomplishments and happy that he was getting better at dressing up. Giving up orange still made him sad, but at least his color preferences had grown. Naruto hurried out of his house to meet with the Hearth Foundation's leader. But first he had to go to the manse. When he entered their cafe and looked around, it was a dreary hour. Luca. Ellie. When Leonora came out of their kitchen to greet the young man, she said, "My, don't you look dashing." "I am, aren't I?" he asked, running his fingers through his hair, unable to manage its unkempt strands. "You have a date?" Luca inquired, moving behind Leonora. "Nah, I'm meeting with the head of the foundation that's funding my schooling." Leonora stepped closer to Naruto so she could touch his clothing. She examined him from head to toe and was quite pleased with what she observed. Excited. Out of habit, Naruto massaged his cheek and muttered, very. Oh, and nervous. He often did it when he was feeling nervous. To this day, I still have no clue why they're helping me. I'm not the only orphan with any potential in the city in the whole country. Luca stood beside his wife, his hand now on Naruto's shoulder. That's because they saw something special in you, son. They see what me and my wife would see in you every day. And what's that? The wedded couple spoke the word greatness. Naruto's eyes immediately filled with tears. He pulled them both into his arms, hugged them tightly, and said, "I'm so lucky I have you guys." He cried even harder when he felt them hug him as tightly as he did them. After Naruto had calmed down, Leonora wiped the tears from his cheek and then gave it a kind pat. "Well, go on, we wouldn't want you to be late." Naruto smiled widely and rushed to the exit, but he halted before he reached the glass doors. Oh yeah, if Donnie calls your telephone line, tell her I won't be available today." "Sure, son." Before he left, he waved once more and said, "Thanks Luca, thanks Ellie." Naruto was sitting quietly on a couch in a really cozy living room. He was instructed to wait in the living room of this immaculate estate. And thus far, he was liking the surroundings. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the double doors opening. He rose quickly from his chair, and instead of gawking at the sight of the newcomer to the room, he was now able to control his natural folly. In front of him stood a woman who was obviously quite attractive and smart, and she held out her hand to him. Naruto immediately shook her hand. "I hope I did not make you wait too long, Naruto." "Nope, not at all, miss. Hester Hort. But you can call me Hess." "Thank you, Miss Hess, for inviting me to your humble abode and for everything you and your foundation has done for me." "Oh, it was no problem, Naruto. Please have a seat," she said, smiling kindly. "You have been the best investment this foundation could ever ask for." She gestured to the seat behind him before taking a seat on the opposite couch. "Thank you again, Miss Hess. I truly did hope that my progress have not disappointed you." "I assure you, it hasn't. I've heard that you planned on opening a French bistro, is it true?" With a cheek massage, he said, "Yes, ma'am." "Please, just call me Hess, and there's no need to be nervous around me. I'm honestly quite proud of you, your dream is quite admirable," she remarked, laughing at his quickly hidden frown. He hoped he didn't look foolish as he heard the woman in front of him chuckle again. Really? Cause I plan to make my French bistro as homey as your place here, where families could find comfort in food and in the company of the people around them. Your enthusiasm and gentle heart is what fits this foundation. Tell me, how many years do you have left before graduating? A year and a half, Miss Hess. Great progress, Mr. Now. How would you feel if I were to fund your project with an added bonus just to spice things up? After stating that, Naruto's jaw actually dropped, landing on the ground if he had been in an anime. For real? She nodded. Yes, mister, she answered with a big smile. I am, as you say, for real. For real, for real. Another nod. He let out a cry while grinning widely. You're the goat, Miss Hess. When he expressed his excitement once more, she simply laughed. Good. Yeah. You know, the greatest. Of. All. Time. You're the real-life MJ23. There was laughter in the room. I have no idea who or what MJ23 is, but I like it. I am the goat. Naruto crossed his arms across his chest and nodded in accord with her. Better believe it. Of course I believe it. Oh, and before I forget. Along with funding your project, I would also like you to be in charge of a building, which we will be turning into a hotel that was fortunately out in the market, that would be a part of your bistro. And again, Naruto's jaw dropped. I wouldn't call you a landlord, per se, you will be its owner, and I do hope for you to be involved with its operations. There was no sound for 2 whole minutes, while Naruto's mouth hung open, and Hess waited to see how he would react. So, like an owner, manager, and possibly a cook. One more nod. How would that work, Miss Hess? With your leadership. I trust that you will be surrounding yourself with people that you trust, and you will be responsible with the workers you hire. Worry not, I will always be here to help. I will also be assigning people to help you. But this is how your establishment would differ from every other hotel in New York City. A certain area of your hotel will also be a housing for orphaned, neglected, and abused children. Children in need of permanent shelter, if they have a guardian left they will also be welcome. Along with your bistro, you will also have a child care center. You can find extra caretakers, but you're the one I trust the most to care for those children. With a hopeful look on her face, she continued. I hope you will find this project of most importance since you yourself could relate to them. Then he answered immediately. Of course. How could I say no to that? It is the best job I could ever ask for. Doing a job that I love and doing something that could help. He smiled with confidence. Naruto said, I will do my very best, Miss Hess. I promise, and I never break my promises. He placed his thumb up and held out his arm to her. Now she was obviously enthralled with this young man. She was impressed by Naruto's character. He stayed the same even after she altered his memory and the trajectory of his life. In case it wasn't obvious, Hester Hearth was, in fact, Lady Hester. The state, the family, the home, the hearth, and the right order of domesticity are all represented by this goddess. The goddess became aware that protecting and guiding the young man before her would be the best decision she would ever make for her own future, as well as the safety of her siblings, nieces, and nephews' offspring. Hess rose from her seat, and Naruto followed suit. Hess went up to Naruto and embraced him tenderly. When he hugged her back, she smiled once more and he said, I will be holding you to that promise, Naruto. Even after they split ways, Hess kept her hand on his. She put her hand to his cheek. Whoever your parents were, she continued, caressing his silky skin, they would be really, really proud of you. Naruto was a Yankee and Knicks fan and was now a devoted New Yorker. I also have the added benefit of being a proud NYU alumnus. He was confined to his apartment for 3 days after graduating, making aglio e olio before starting a job, and packing up everything he owned. His best friend, Danielle LaRue, was seated comfortably on his kitchen counter. Why are you even here? You're not even helping and I'm always the one cooking for you. She rolled her eyes at him. Moral support, duh. He turned back to look at her. Wow, I'm touched. Laughing, she remarked, not as good as Helen touched you. He let out a sigh and threw his half-eaten toast at her. For the last time, Donnie, it was freshman year. She was a funking succubus. I knew she was gonna suck the life out of me. Not as good as she soon. Naruto's mouth was immediately covered by her untoasted garlic bread. He eventually laughed at her grimace as she spat up the piece of bread and uttered the words, I hate you. After embracing him, she murmured, I'm going to miss you, Nair. But it's a chance to finally achieve your dream, and it would be a great opportunity for you, he continued, giving her a gentle pat in return. I'm going to miss you too, Donnie. I know, I'm now part of a musical theater dance, and I'm being honest when I say that I feel lucky. But I just don't feel good leaving you alone, because let's be real. They're obviously taking me everywhere that's not with my best friend. He kissed her on top of her head once before they left. Hey, even I'm not ready to leave your side. Danielle followed him as he carried their plate to his dining table, where he started to arrange their pastas and finished the meal with a little garnish. I wouldn't be around to protect you from the horny bastards in this world, they remarked, sitting next to each other before they had a mouthful. Naruto waited for Daniela to make a decision. Magnifique. She finished her meal and replied, Très bien. I guess hanging out with the culinary kids really was worth it. Back to the topic. I'm a big girl now, I could confidently protect myself. You were the one who taught me how to protect myself and fight back. And you will be using it on every guy who comes near you. She groaned. I both hate and love your protectiveness. He was saying to her, hey. Look, Gramps is just as protective of you. You just want to take advantage of me not being around you so you could easily get laid. Donnie slapped him on the back of the head. That's not it, you idiot. Ouch. But then they both started giggling as well. They all spoke at once. I'm really gonna miss this. The two young people ended their supper with happy smiles and made a commitment to always be welcome in each other's lives and hearts, no matter what happened in their own. Rideau checked his watch and looked around. 10:05 a.m. at 90 Bedford Street. He stopped in front of a familiar-looking building. Wow. He was amazed by the entire building. He was amazed at how well they executed their idea from paper to its current state in a span of years, saying, definitely Beaux Arts structure. Damn it. He heard a familiar sound and turned to see it was footsteps. Architect Lawrence. They shook hands quickly. He patted Naruto on the back before escorting him inside and added, at this point, it would be fine for you to call me Andrew, Naruto. Naruto commented on the lobby's interior design, saying, nice. Classical and mixed with a dash of modern design. Yes, we wouldn't want to be out of the times, of course. Also, Ms. Hart recommended it on one of our meetings. And it's now fully furnished. He asked, laughing at the reception signs, she really is the goat. Andrew was satisfied with the quality and dependability of their work and responded, of course. All the furniture were ready even before every installation were done. He huffed slightly to his chest. Rideau continued to stare at the sign, enjoying its appearance as well. Andrew looked at the thing he was looking at. It's a very inviting name. How did you come up with it? I wanted to dedicate all of this to Hess. Everything good in my life came because of her. I feel like I wouldn't have this opportunity if it wasn't for her. Then you'll love her even more once you see what your bistro finally looks like, Andrew said, excitedly dragging Rideau into another section of the bottom level. Fancy, isn't it? I still wanted to keep its cozy feeling from its French bistro theme. Ms. Hart also told me to keep the idea because it was your dream. This is amazing. Andrew was hopping with Naruto, who was now bouncing vigorously beside him. The two men are now facing each other, their hands linked together. I'm so excited for you, grinned Andrew. They stopped, saw how unmanly they were, and immediately pushed each other away. They cried out, I'm so grateful towards you. According to Naruto, we're men. Andrew nodded. Yes, we are. They looked around and then started giggling. Naruto was happy. He was able to add another friend to his list of people he loved thanks to this campaign. When is its grand opening? Asked Andrew. A week from now. I just need to hire a few more people for the room service. I can't wait. Then you should be ready, because I will bring fame to Andrew Lawrence's name. For I plan to make Eternal Heart the best establishment New York has ever seen. I swear to you. He raised his fist in the air. If Andrew hadn't been manly enough, Naruto would have sobbed when he responded, I believe in you, my friend. Three incredibly attractive women are strolling around Washington Square Park and seem to be having a serious conversation, oblivious to the attention that everyone is giving them. For once, can we not shop today, Aphrodite? Artemis glared at her and added, I want to eat. I agree. Can't we have one outing where we can comfortably enjoy our increased leisure and not stop by every shop in Soho? Athena asked between Artemis and Aphrodite. Then Aphrodite grumbled, but I'm comfortable with shopping. Artemis and Athena did not move. Fine, he said with a sigh, but there better be cute boys where we were eating. How about that Brazilian restaurant nearby? The huntress asked. Wait, cried the goddess of beauty, excitedly, I remember seeing news of a hotel and bistro that just opened 2 months ago, and all the mortals are going crazy about it. Do they have a lot of choices for dessert? Artemis asked, her eyes sparkling at the thought of dessert. I think so. I haven't been there yet. But I've heard that the owner is smoking hot. Artemis did not reply, though she rolled her eyes. Athena may eventually say something. Then it's settled, we're going there. Come on then. From what I recall, it's on Bedford Street. The three of them immediately started toward their objective. The waiter greeted them as they entered the bistro. Welcome to Eternal Heart. Table for 3. Yes, Athena responded, leading their group, and the waitress took them to a table. As soon as the soft melody of Fur Elise by Ludwig van Beethoven reached her ear, she was enthralled by their superb musical sense. They were seated pleasantly and given menus. But before they could examine it, they were drawn to the bistro's inviting ambience. It was as if they were in different temples on Mount Olympus, and each girl felt the safety and comfort that this quaint location provided. So far so good, Artemis commented, and it's surprisingly elegant for a bistro. It pleased the goddess of war, strategy, and wisdom. I agree. Its architectural structure is meticulous. It stuck with the classics, but also carefully altering it to go with the times. But while Athena was studying the menu, Aphrodite had already summoned the nearest waiter. He greeted them politely. Good afternoon. I'm Tyler, I will be your server for today. Are you all ready to order? No. Not yet. But would it be possible for us to meet your esteemed owner? She said, deceiving their waiter with her sweetness and a little charm speak. He smiled beautiful at them before he departed, saying, "Of course, ma'am, I will get him for you." Artemis scoffed. "Men. Why did you want to meet the owner of Eternal Hearth, Diet?" Athena inquired, turning to face Aphrodite. "I wanted to see how hot he really is." "She's being her usual self, Athena. What even made you wonder?" Before Athena could reply, the three women turned to look at the man who was now standing by their table. "Hello, ladies. Welcome to Eternal Hearth. I'm Naruto, proud owner of this fine hotel and bistro. How may I help you?" Naruto replied with a respectful bow. Naruto shook her hand and then looked at the girls seated beside her. A scowl replaced Aphrodite's seductive grin. Was she not pretty enough for him? Was her charm speak insufficient when she saw Artemis utter the word harlot? Her blood began to boil, and she rolled her eyes at the sneer she was giving her. "Athena, Aphrodite's cousin. It's nice to finally meet you, mister. We've heard so much about this place," she said, shaking Naruto's hand as well. Rather than waiting for Artemis to introduce the goddess of hunting to Naruto, Athena decided to do it herself before her sister made things impossible. "And this is my sister, Artemis." Artemis reluctantly accepted Naruto's handshake, but not because he seemed so genuine. It was because she was in a good mood and thought she would be rewarded with a tasty dessert if she waited long enough. "Pleased to meet you. I'm delighted to meet all three of you. I'm very grateful that all of you chose to dine here." Athena gestured for him to sit down. "Please sit down." The girls moved to make way for him. Before carefully examining each female, he sat between Aphrodite and Athena at an empty table. Aphrodite was full of vitality, with her stunning ocean blue eyes and gorgeous brown hair that seemed more blonde than brown. Athena's beautiful brown hair and sharp gray eyes overshadowed his knowledge. Artemis's silky auburn hair and fierce silver eyes made him feel stronger than he was. "Wow. All three of you are related to each other, but all of you look completely different from each other, but also possess attributes that highlights each of you well." He started with the goddess Aphrodite. He approached Athena and said, "You seem to greatly love fun, blonde hair and blue eyes." He also mentioned Artemis, saying, "Brown hair and gray eyes. Values knowledge above all else." He gasped, "Auburn hair and silver eyes, which I find beyond gorgeous." He moaned and spread his arms wide, expecting to be thudded. "I mean, you don't just look gorgeous. You also look strong and fearless, which is admirable. Wisdom and fun are great too. Please, just send me into oblivion." Naruto was surprised by the girls' boisterous laughter. He opened his eyes to see Artemis and Aphrodite slapping Athena on both sides of her arms, but he refrained from laughing too much for fear of upsetting their stomach. When Athena felt the first blow to her arm, her joy was short-lived. Athena retaliated against the two girls to prevent them from laughing, in addition to her own self-interested need for retribution. She turned to look at Naruto. The other girls were watching Naruto and waited for his response now that they had cooled down. "What a fine observation, mister." Not wanting to add to the fact that he's naturally terrible at making people think badly, he winced at his terrible phrase choice. "I don't know, you know. I just felt it when I knew that all three of you were named after some of my favorite goddesses. I didn't think it would be that close of an observation. I guess your parents were right to name you after the right goddess." He touched his cheek. "Also, feel free to call me Naruto." "Well, we do come from a Greek family, so it was easy to name us after goddesses," said Artemis. Artemis feels like hitting Aphrodite because of her incessant questioning. She is obviously seeking recognition when she asks, "Oh, before we all forget the favorite goddess. Who's your favorite? I'm sure the goddess of beauty would appeal more to a man like you." Athena was interested, too, but said nothing. Nah, I don't have any favorites. I like them equally because all of them contribute greatly to their society. They carefully and consistently keep watch on every domain assigned to them. It would be unfair of me to pick favorites." Having never heard a man think or speak like the one in front of them, all the goddesses were in shock. It was Athena who broke the stillness. "Very well said." Making a playful bow. "Thank you, Lady Athena." This time, they froze. But when they heard him chuckle, they relaxed. "Have you guys decided on what to order?" To see if they agreed, Athena looked to Artemis and Aphrodite. "No, we actually are in need of your assistance. Would there be anything that you'd recommend us?" "Dessert perhaps," she responded. "How about this? I could make each of you a dish that is off the menu. I've enjoyed speaking with all of you, and I want to make your visit memorable by making special desserts that you would enjoy." Artemis responded enthusiastically, "Of course. Before that, choices for beverage." "Vin Santo," Athena said. "Demi-sec champagne. Cappuccino." If Artemis weren't out in public, she would be drooling by now. "Fine choices. Your drinks will be served shortly." Artemis and Athena both said, "Thank you, Naruto." The huntress and moon goddess may only express gratitude to a man when food is involved. Most of the male patrons were jealous of Naruto when Aphrodite winked at his orders. "I can't wait, Blondie." When Naruto left the goddess's table, the three of them cuddled up to each other. Artemis and Athena were surprised when Aphrodite spoke first. That mortal is different from the usual. Why? Artemis asked. Because he saw me. The real me, not his idea of perfection. In addition, as Naruto had indicated, they got their drinks quickly. Athena took a sip of her wine and thought. He did not feel special. He might look like Apollo, but he did not feel like a demigod. A clear-sighted mortal, perhaps. Of course he's not a son of Apollo, that man was far wiser than my idiot brother. Oh, Artemis. Complimenting a man now, are we? I still haven't forgotten the blush you had when Naruto called you beyond gorgeous. Mocked Aphrodite. No? He just seemed like a man with a better personality than any man I've met in millennia. Athena, Artie. Honest. Do you think Naruto saw the real me because what he saw as true beauty is one's true self? Because that's how I see it. He did seem like he has a tender heart. Aphrodite placed a hopeful hand on her chest. Athena nodded. He's quite a special man. Artemis has been anticipating this moment all day. Someone punched Aphrodite in the arm. Ouch. Do not taint that man, or I swear. Swear what? You'll steal him from me, said Aphrodite. Well, what? Artemis took another hit. Athena took each girl's ear before things became hot. Girls. We're inside a fine establishment, handled by an equally fine young man. Behave. Both Artemis and Aphrodite pouted. Yes ma'am, we're sorry ma'am. After the commotion at the goddess's table, Naruto arrived. He held a plate containing 3 delectable pastries. He carefully handed a dish to each female. A hand gestured at Athena's plate. Deconstructed berry melba with meringue shards and crumble. Moving on, I call this forbidden fruit. It's a chocolate mousse, and inside is a raspberry callus that's coated with gannic. The garnish of raspberries and strawberries on top of a bed of chocolate soil and a raspberry sorbet. After that, Artemis, who had never been jealous of her, started feeling jealous. Never. After giving Aphrodite a suspicious look, she kept looking at her dish, which she thought was much better. And for Artemis, I call this moss dessert. A spoonful of matcha soil with a dollop of dulce cremu. More dulce under a pistachio sponge cake. That ball in the center is a pistachio mousse that is coated with matcha, and inside is caramel gel, garnished with sprigs of mint and fennel fronds. Lastly, placed opposite the sponge cake is a touch of crushed siphon lime yogurt and nitrogen. With a final bow, he ended the introduction to his incredible creation. Enjoy, ladies. The goddesses all kept quiet, concentrating only on their plate. It was Artemis who picked up her spoon first. The auburn-haired beauty enthusiastically broke hers apart, thrilled to see the mousse and caramel gel stream out of its shell, saying, almost ashamed to destroy it. She had been craving sweets. After taking a big taste of each ingredient, she let out a loud yell of excitement, saying, let's crack this bowl open. I might be in love. Can I plan the wedding? A heart theme perhaps? Aphrodite asked. We better be part of your entourage. Athena was thrilled with this remark because she and Aphrodite both liked making fun of Artemis. You can talk all you want, I'm not wasting my time on words when in front of me lays the best dessert the mortal world has to offer. This caused the other girls' focus to shift back to their plates. Every meal introduces the girls to new tastes and textures. Their table was occasionally filled with compliments and moans, which piqued the curiosity of the other patrons in their orders. The servers looked at Naruto in concern, wondering if he wanted them to question the women about their noisy conduct. They didn't seem to know where they were. Naruto just grinned subtly at his staff, enjoying the warm reception his newly tried dinner had got. He watched the girls closely, and now referred to them as AAA, checking in with them periodically to see how they were responding. Naruto's ears perked up when he heard multiple patrons requesting to order what they now referred to as the orgasmic dessert set from the AAA's table. This time, Naruto couldn't stop giggling. When a waiter approached to inform him of the customer's requirements, Naruto nodded. He told his waiter to take those orders before he went to the kitchen to train their cooks to make his first batch of specialized sweets. He would have to acknowledge the influence those women had on his creation. Let's go back to the girls, where Artemis has been trying to taste Aphrodite's food. At first, she made fun of Athena, and her moss dessert was better, to be honest. Aphrodite pushed Artemis's arm away. No, this is mine. This dish was specially made for me. Naruto, that fine specimen, thought of me while making this. So, no. She patted at her empty plate and huffed. She would prefer to beat her up after they leave the cafe, but she was tired of thinking about insults and answered, fine. Naruto approached their table again. Hello ladies. Was it to your liking? Yes, Artemis said in an attempt to praise him, you should be very proud that we've enjoyed what you prepared for us. With another seductive smile, Aphrodite added, and it looks so beautiful. I hope mine was made extra special. Naruto, he cleared his throat. But if I may say so, the customers were quite intrigued with your reactions to my dish. They seem to have labeled it as the orgasmic dessert set inspired by your reactions. He chuckled. All the women froze, their expressions displaying terror. To tell the truth, they had no idea they were making these sounds. Athena opened her mouth to reply, but her brain was just too stunned to work right then. Artemis didn't know how to react, so she just laughed in her chair. Regardless of what other people felt, she declared her day to be perfect after tasting her moss dessert. Naruto was taken aback by Aphrodite's sudden reappearance. My, Nair. Did you enjoy the sounds we were making? Are my moans now stuck in your brain? Will you be thinking of it every night for the rest of your life? Aphrodite's words caused Athena to blush more and Artemis to chuckle more. It was Naruto's time to get upset now. He was a stumbling mess. He let out a sigh and changed the subject, saying, you Anyway, thank you. It fills me with great joy that our dishes are enjoyed by every person who visits us. Athena and Aphrodite both wore smirks, knowing that Naruto would forget what had done. The three of them got up from their seats and began to depart, saying, No, thank you Naruto. Aphrodite, Artemis, and I will be sure to come back in our free time. Being the gentleman that he was, Naruto brought them to the door. I'll be holding you to it. Also, I wanted to honor all three of you by naming each dish after all of you. Athena's berry melba, Aphrodite's forbidden fruit, and Artemis's moss dessert. Sounds extra cool, right? It was not long until the goddess of love seized Naruto's arm. I love the sound of that. Very tempting. Naruto decided not to pay attention to any of her charms. I know, right? Great food is the definition of temptation. Athena pulled the goddess away from him so they could finally leave. Thank you for giving us such a delightful time. This was really worth the visit. When they were outside, Naruto bid them farewell. Aphrodite gave one last wink and waved. I'll come by when I can. See you later, cutie. Athena was excitedly complimenting Aphrodite and Artemis when Naruto last heard from their group, saying that she wanted to go back so she could taste the delectable feast she had just finished. He spoke with a friendly smile. Even though he believed they were out of the ordinary, he said, that was refreshing. Ms. Hess felt the same way. When he first met Hess, his senses weren't as developed as they are now. Though he has been thinking about it for a very long time, his intuition tells him that he should have known sooner rather than later. Hestia was now on Olympus, at the temple of Apollo. With a flash of brilliant light. Yes, my beautiful Auntie Hestia. I need your help. I know, he responded with a bright smile. I've been waiting for this for years now. One of Ray's children, the oldest, never stopped smiling. Of course you would. I assume that you know more. He gently stroked his head and added, not all, just the tiny bits. I don't keep a constant watch, you know. And I always want you to have your privacy. You are my favorite out of all my father's siblings. Then I am honored that you would pick me as your favorite. Apollo's face was suddenly stern. And Hestia. About that help you needed. Is it about the extraordinary mortal you've been sheltering? Yes, I truly do need your help. Is it possible for your chariot to guide the demigods on their way to the hotel? It wouldn't be as if they were hitching a ride from you. What I mean is, if it would be possible for the power of your sun chariot to send signs to the demigods, since your sun chariot is a manifestation of humans' dream about the sun. It would be like informing them that there is a safe haven where they are welcome to stay. After that, it's all on Naruto. I don't know. But it is possible. If we can guide humans with the help of stars, then it would be possible with my trusted chariot. Heshia's face was hopeful. So you'll help. I'm not so sure. Will this Naruto really help all those children? Perhaps wearing a smile as brilliant as Apollo's, he said, of course, I believe in him. He has a will of fire. But how can he protect all those kids? Didn't you alter his memories to seem like a puny mortal? Apollo didn't know the solution until Hestia did. I didn't seal away his powers, I only altered quite a bit of his memories, and he still has the emotional and personal attachment that made him to be the man that he is now. I don't regret doing it. But not a day passes by without the feeling of worry filling me. Why did you do it? Her mind instantly responded to her vivid memories of being absorbed by their father, and then hearing her mother's cries of pain, as she lost each of her children to her father when she questioned, Tell me, when has your father even been anywhere near reasonable? She became extremely concerned when she discovered that she had concrete evidence that his brother Zeus was capable of being just as terrible as Kronos. He had eaten his first wife, Medusa, in order to evade the prophecy that the child he would father her would eventually overthrow him. They later divorced Artemis to prevent their marriage from producing more children who were more terrifyingly powerful than the gods. When she remembered her first experience with Naruto, the deep worry of what her younger brother would do to the helpless child she was helping once he learned of Naruto's existence returned. She knew that Zeus would consider Naruto a grave threat, and that she would need to tell him the complete truth as soon as possible. She truly loved her younger brother, but sometimes she couldn't keep him from getting angry. If her brother did discover that Naruto was from a different dimension, she would have to do everything in her power to soothe him. With a final sigh, Hestia continued. Ensuring that Prometheus's sacrifices for humanity are not in vain would be analogous to that. I am the sworn protectors to those in need, if they made it to my heart. I will never ever let anyone's sacrifice go in vain, most importantly Naruto's sacrifices. It's a deal. Apollo exclaimed. I am so helping you. I've got to tell you, I'm getting sick of this law. I always want to be with my children. He chuckled. But the boy would need to get his knowledge for the ninja arts back. How can he properly protect my children, nieces, and nephews if he's too weak? It was obvious that Naruto would unavoidably do something foolish, given her ability to watch and be cautious, and her understanding of him as he is now. Hesha believes he has matured enough to be cautious with his actions, but he will still be the force that rocks the world. I knew when I altered his memory that when the time came, I would eventually bring it all back to its full form. If he had his ninja skills on his first day here, he would definitely do things that would bring suspicion to the gods. Imagine doing that in New York City. In the heart of Olympus. I understand, you just wanted him to have a life he deserved. Now, it's been 4 years since you found him. Do you think he's ready? 3 words, Apollo. Will of fire. Damn, I'm gonna have to learn how to get that will of fire. But even if he has the will of fire, I'm still gonna be on the lookout for him. Apollo laughed. Hesha approached Apollo to give him an embrace. Do not worry, my nephew, you also embody the will of fire. Thank you for being so understanding, Apollo. 5 months after the spectacular debut of Eternal Hearth, it is now June 10, 1990, and the summer solstice is just a few days away. Today, Naruto avoided all hotel chores and tried to gather as much fresh air as he could from New York. Out of habit, Naruto ran his fingers through his hair. As always, he left it at that, still unable to tame it after all these years. Today, he wanted to look amazing. He finished his spotless white shirt with black boots and white socks, and tucked it under his favorite black wide-fitting tapered slacks. Naruto, don't be too shabby. He wanted to be very dapper for his outing because he was meeting Hess at Central Park. He was quite proud of the way he looked, but his main objective was to find a way to make Orange look amazing to other people. The only thing he found difficult was coming up with a solution. Naruto's right was 5 feet away from Hess. As soon as the idea of Naruto mimicking the motion of caressing his beard as if he had one entered her head, she started laughing. He was immediately attracted to Hess's burst of laughter, which frightened him and caused him to begin looking for its source. But it wasn't until he saw her that Naruto smiled. He walked over to her and said, Hess, I've missed you so much. Before embracing her. With a warm embrace, she said, already. We saw each other just a week ago. Remember? I was in the hotel with you. Naruto huddled in Hess's hug. He had always liked her friendly manner. It was too familiar, as if her warmth had protected him from the beginning. She is very adored, friendly, and caring. He admired her for saying, I always miss you. After this day ends, I'll miss you already. She also adored Naruto and was pleased with how quickly he warmed up to her. It was a first for her, and it was odd to watch someone connect with her so soon. The goddess that no one paid attention to, she found that she only needed the occasional acknowledgement. She had a bit more control over the fireplace than usual, though, because Naruto was always there for her, and his unforced dedication to her made her feel wonderful about everything. She gave him a comforting pat on the back and whispered, I feel the same way, Naruto. I feel the same way. As soon as they broke the embrace, Naruto offered her his arm, which she immediately accepted. Shall we? We shall. They started to walk gently while they silently looked around. Why are we out today? Why not just meet at the hotel? Naruto then said. You needed to be out for a bit, wander around. You've been far too busy. That Luca and Eleonora called me because they were worried about you. She touched his arm. Just because you're the owner doesn't mean I want you to drown in your work. You hired all those people for a reason, and it was also why I put Aiden with you, so he could handle the load with you. Maybe I should permanently stay in the hotel, so I could watch over you. He scratched his cheek and shouted, no. As she looked at him in surprise. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that in a bad way. I just want to do this independently. But oh, I wouldn't be taking your work from you. I just want to be there to guide you, help you, and protect you. He flashed his cute smile at her while she was being mean to him. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make you proud. I wanted to cement myself as someone who gave more than what people is expected of them. She was thrilled to say, then it's final, I'm now a permanent occupant in Eternal Hearth. She was able to keep everyone in the building safe, not only Naruto, like a toddler with her first complete bar of chocolate. She could finally be there for him and provide him with direct assistance. Still, there were times when she had to depart to avoid causing suspicion. But since she was his tutor, Naruto wouldn't be seen as a danger. Are you? Proud of me, I mean. As she gripped his arm more tightly, she said, of course I'm proud of you. How could I not be? I look at you and I see someone who have matured so well, just like fine wine. She would be lying if she claimed she wasn't worried because she loved Naruto, and spending more time with him would give her the opportunity to properly restore the lost memories. His thoughts, his company, and his presence. Just know that when the time comes that I've disappointed you or made you mad that you start to avoid me, I will understand. He was now a constant in the goddess's existence. Naruto answered, though puzzled by the sudden turnaround. He stroked the region close to his stomach with his free hand. I never really know what I'm gonna get dealt next. I just learned to take life as it comes, and to make each day count. All I know is that I've been keeping this mindset as a child, there's no use changing it now. But my gut tells me that you have and will always be my saving grace. Which is true, and just like you. I will be able to help children in need. I know, my original plan was only to open a bistro, and it was you who added the hotel and childcare. Adding all of those to my workload actually made me feel better. I imagine myself only owning and managing a bistro, and it does not feel as fulfilling as what I have now. Without those, my heart just wouldn't be overfilled by such great emotions. From the experience, to the people I meet every day in this line of work. So thank you, Hess. Affectionately stroked the hand at my arm. To put it simple, it's you gave me a chance to have something great. Hess wiped away the tears that suddenly poured down her cheeks. She said, "Oh Naruto, you do well to warm this woman's heart. You truly are one great-hearted individual. I'm pleased to have found you," and she meant every word, straight from her eternal heart. Hey, you finding me for Heart Foundation is possibly the greatest thing that will ever happen to me, and I vow to find children that needs proper guidance and the love they deserve. Don't count yourself short, there will be bigger blessings coming your way. Actually, about that. Since I've received enough blessings in my life, I want to give back. The playground at the hotel is ready, we just need the kids to give it life. If I want to give back, I better hurry and start helping the children. Naruto didn't mind the scorching temperatures. I don't want anyone to have a childhood like mine. Sad and alone. Indeed, the children will make the hotel livelier. Naruto, I've heard from my sources that there is a child around Connecticut who has continually run away from his home. A boy who's about the age of 5, he's located in Westport, Connecticut. I've heard that their police forces are getting tired of chasing him around. Naruto guided her through the strawberry fields. Any adults left with him? Only the boy's mother, the woman added sadly. His mother isn't in the best state of mind. Then we should take them in. Naruto gritted his teeth and remarked, the police forces shouldn't be tired of doing their job. Not everyone has the will to care and love. He turned to face Hess and hammered his fist on his breast, declaring, well, I swore to give them a better life. So I will. A promise sworn is a promise made, that is Naruto's way. If you don't mind, I will come with you. We could do this together. Hess, I'm fine. I want to do this, I can do this. I appreciate you wanting to help me, but I want to prove to someone, more than anyone else, that he can do this no matter what the setbacks are. That he could always make a change. Who might that be? Myself. Pinching his cheek playfully, Hess remarked, I wish there were more Narutos in this world. When she spotted Naruto glancing at her face, she closed her eyes instantly, fearing that he would pinch her cheek when he raised his hand near her face. She opened her eyes to find Naruto smiling widely after a few seconds had passed, and she was feeling nothing else. All she could sense, though, was his washing something possibly dirt off her skin. He held something between his fingers and showed it out. Look, it's your eyelash. Now make a wish. That a single eyelash could grant a wish struck her as odd. Still, she took action. She looked at her eyelid and longed. I wish for my family to get along, because I love them so much. With a kind twist of his head, he replied, you're not supposed to say it out loud. As she continued, but words have power. Saying it in your head just seems so boring. But I think that if we want our wish to be granted, it will need our enthusiasm and the support of our friends and family. She placed her palm on his chest, right where his heart beat, and patted him on the chest. Then his eyes expanded and he said, you're right. His eyes suddenly glowed. You're part of my family too. As they continued to walk together, Naruto sung along to the Beatles' song Help. He then sang the remainder of the song out loud. And my life has changed since then. In numerous ways. I seem to be self-sufficient. To vanish into the fog. But I become so insecure sometimes. I know that you are all I need. As though I'd never done it first. She continued, smiling earnestly, you should sing often. But why that song? She said. It seemed fitting. We're walking around strawberry fields, I sing a song written by John Lennon. He chuckled. But it might also be a message from me to you, since you promised that you will be around me more often. So yeah, I just know I could count on you. He laughed foolishly at her. They were silent for several minutes until one of them spoke. In order to feel that she deserved to be in Naruto's life, she felt that she had to be completely honest with him, even though she wasn't sure whether what she intended to say would upset him on this beautiful day. She had to say, Naruto, I have to tell you something important. Not now though. It appears that Naruto recognizes that the time wasn't right. Though he wasn't sure whether that was what fate had in store for him, he knew he wanted to enjoy the day. He made the decision to be naive, but he wasn't. He had honed his senses and sensed that it might be something enormous, even though his heart and stomach told him he didn't need it right now. With a genuine smile, he continued. We both know it's not the right time. But I want you to promise me something. Yes? She asked quickly, with a look of eagerness on her face. Promise me that whatever you need to tell me when you're ready. A while ago, I felt it. I knew you were not ready, but you needed to say it. So promise me, and by the time you tell me, we'll both be ready. Again, loud and clear. I swear. Then I promise to be patient. Then they converse. A promise sworn is a promise made. Tess was one of the people in the hotel when she and Rudo had first met a day ago, but she didn't show up today, saying her sisters were looking for her. He was still in the hotel because his trip to Connecticut was scheduled for the next day, and the car he was renting wouldn't be available until then. Because he was so bored, he was seated next to one of his regular customers, their local AAA minus the 1A. In essence, it is simply AA. Since she had the entire pan to herself, Artemis consumed her banoffee pie one slice at a time. Across from Artemis, Naruto was speaking solemnly to Athena. The huntress just shook her shoulder after silencing them. Well, she thought, good luck to the boy if they were fighting. She suddenly became aware of something, and her eyes widened. Since he was the mortal cook who made them delectable meals, she listened to their conversation. All I'm saying is, Temple of Hephaestus is one of the most overlooked temple from Greek architecture. Naruto replied. She neglected to complete a croak, madam. And why do you think so? Athena inquired. Simply because it's one of the best, if not the best preserved Greek temple. So you're saying, Hephaestus's temple is on the top of your list? She questioned, staring at him in wonder at his unexpected pick. Generally intrigued by the direction their conversation had taken, he kept his gaze on Athena and said, no, not really. I just admire how well it was preserved. But I understand that it was built quite late compared to the other temples, but it doesn't change the fact that on my list, it's right up there. I understand, but if we did count the temples that was destroyed by natural causes or by vile warriors of the old ways, would his temple be right up your list? Naruto turned back to Athena after glancing at Artemis. I feel bad saying this, but to be honest, no it's not. The temple of Artemis is way up there. The latest version is just beautiful, but I always did hate to remember what happened on its original site, that it had two other versions before having its final form. The first time, it was destroyed by natural causes. The second was destroyed by someone we cannot name. I've read somewhere that his acts prompted the creation of a damnation memorial law forbidding everyone from mentioning his name or Lear in writing. He was leaning toward her. But if you didn't know, I'll just spell it to you. Herostratus, he said, naming each letter in between pauses. Athena laughed at Naruto's actions. She knew it, of course, but she wanted to know more. Once you get to know him, you're just struck by how bright his personality is. So often his folly overshadowed his intelligence, even though he showed himself to be a really intelligent man. Because she thought it was kind of cute, she let him go on. Artemis sat silently listening to their conversation. She admitted that it was repulsive for someone to destroy her second temple, in order to gain attention by setting fire to such a sacred sanctuary. For no reason at all. Even though her thoughts were filled with hatred for a man who had passed away, she continued to stuff her face with pie, which significantly helped to calm her down. And while we're at it, can you imagine the Harem at its full form? Answered Naruto. She saw it, but not in the way humans do, and said, yes, I can. Exactly. I can just imagine the Temple of Hera in its glorious form because of the help of its well-preserved floor plan. It's also a Doric temple. Oh, speaking of Doric. Do you know the three major classical orders? Easy. Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian. I'll start with the second, Ionic. It is the next order to be developed, just after Doric. It is said to be the female form that is in contrast to the stockier male Doric order, because it is narrower. Corinthian, it is similar to Ionic with its base, column, and entablature, but its capital is much more ornate, which is carved with two tiers of curly acanthus leaves. My personal favorite, Doric order. The oldest, simplest, and most massive of the Greek temples. She appeared highly competent. Same. Naruto's eyes glowed as he saw Athena in a new way. Despite their same enthusiasm and adequate knowledge of the topic, he suspected Athena was more knowledgeable, and just let him talk as much as he wanted. Doric is also my personal favorite, and while we're at the topic, the temple that got me to appreciate the Doric order was the Parthenon. She smiled, of course. Yeah. For real. He grinned excitedly. But ancient Athens have so much to offer. She chuckled when he raised his foot to show her his shoe, a Nike blazer. Hey, just because my ultimate top of the list, number one is the Parthenon, doesn't mean I'm leaving off the other temples that came with it today. How could I just forget Nike? Look. I embody Nike. Artemis broke up their conversation with a sudden snicker. Both Athena and Naruto looked at her. Sorry. Please continue, Mr. Victory. She paused to collect her breath. Athena gave her sister a fierce look. She admits it was funny, but she was having an interesting conversation with Naruto, so she gestured for him to continue. Naruto, please go on. His cheeks were a little red, but he got right to the point because he was in a good mood. As I was saying, the Acropolis of Athens had so much to offer. It has the Erechtheon, Propylaea, Temple of Athena Nike, Statue of Athena Parmatros, and most importantly, the Parthenon in which resides the focal point, the Athena Parthenos, he said, placing a finger on his chin with an inquisitive expression. Beneath the table, Athena's fist was clenched so tightly that it was white. She turned away from him and peered down. Somewhere it doesn't deserve to be in. In order to soothe her, he gently placed a hand on top of hers and whispered, I agree. He could sense her frustration. A slight but genuine smile spread across her face. Anyway, it did get me curious how you know so well about Greek architecture. I took up an art history class in the university where I was fascinated by the sculptures of the Greek gods and goddesses. So I went to the library to learn more about the architecture and the culture, learning it all by myself. Such perseverance, to learn something that wouldn't be a focus for your career. I disagree, to me it has a use. We are enjoying this conversation, right? I would say, all my reading has been worth it, he remarked, grinning his signature smile. The allure of Naruto caused even the goddess of knowledge to blush. Would you mind giving us a tour of your hotel? She answered, I agree. It was worth it, but now I see that we're finished with our food. He got up from his seat, anxious to display his delight and joy, and when Athena and Artemis eventually came up to him, he pointed to a section of the first floor where workmen were equipping a new section and stated, "We're setting up a new bakery in that area over there. Come on then. This is for consumers who are pressed for time if you want to just grab a meal to go. After that, you know where to go." Athena was asked, "Are you going to continue running the bakery?" As if summoned by magic, his grandmother's voice entered his ears and said, "No, in fact. My grandfather and grandma will take care of it." But as quickly as her legs would carry her, an old woman sprinted in his direction and said, "I have a gift for you." The two younger ladies decided to be quiet and watch the scene without getting involved when they noticed that the older woman was exclusively focusing on Naruto. He glanced at the females again, then went to Leonora and said, "Ellie, you didn't need to buy me something. I know that my wife and I have already thanked you for getting us a room at your hotel, which we will never be able to repay, in case I should remind you." Hey. Even hearing the term repay makes me shudder. I seem to recall that we came to an arrangement. You won't have to pay rent as long as you and old man Luca continue to provide the greatest baked products in town and satisfy every local. I just wanted you two here, Grandma. Oh, Naru. She gave him his wrapped present and said, "Now open it." She gave him a playful pinch on the cheek and said, "You always know the right words to melt this old woman's heart." When he saw what Ellie had brought him, his face lit up with delight, and he hurriedly unfolded the hoodie to examine it closely. It was the most orange thing he had ever bought, a full orange hoodie with the New York Knicks emblem printed on it. He groaned, feeling as though he was being treated like a child once more. Whenever Leonora and Luca were nearby, this was what always occurred to him. "I really love it. You mentioned to us that orange was your favorite color, and that you had trouble making it seem less overwhelming to other people. I remember that. You look amazing and others won't mind that you're wearing such a bright color." "Well, orange is a hue that irritates me," Artemis had to explain. "But in the end, it will support the home team and be a much more socially acceptable item of clothing." Leonora didn't notice the girls behind Naruto until now. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I didn't see you two before." "Ma'am, don't worry," Athena stated, "we didn't want to spoil your Naruto surprise." Before Naruto could present the girls to his grandma, the older woman rushed over to them and said, "My, such gorgeous women." With a shy smile on their faces, the sisters mutually replied, "Thank you, ma'am. My dears, you can call me Ellie. I think of all of Naruto's pals as my adopted grandchildren." As they thanked the elderly woman for her compassion, their shy smile grew into a broad one, but when she asked them a surprised question, their smiles suddenly turned into one of sheer terror. "Are any of you women single?" Ellie took Naruto by the arm and pulled him beside her. "Because my Naruto here needs to be married by now," she explained. "No?" said Artemis. "What my sister means is that we have no plans on getting married to anyone," Athena stated before Ellie could respond. "Because we're so busy, we only have time for our work. An old woman like me and proud of young people like you. It's admirable that you both prioritized your careers." Ellie took Athena's and Artemis's hands and murmured, "I understand. But if you two decide to get married, Naruto will always be there for you both." Naruto must have frozen shame during Ellie's tirade, and when he heard Ellie make another type of marriage proposal, he finally stepped in, noting the horrified expressions of Artemis and Athena, who appeared to have just gotten off the world's scariest roller coaster. "I apologize, please don't kill me, Granny just loves messing with me," he added, appearing to beg for pardon as he clasped his hands in front of him. As she gave Naruto a playful slap on the arm, Ellie winked and laughed at both women, saying, "Oh stop it, Naruto, you're embarrassing yourself and the girls." The blonde was so stunned that all he could think about was how she had manipulated it against him. "Oh no, I forgot to give my official introduction. I'm Leonora Manf, the grandmother of this handsome young man. This dashing young man, who is also her favorite target. You'll get over it, sweetie." She went on, "My husband and I will be in charge of the upcoming bakery, and I hope to see you there once it's open." She felt the shady glances he kept sending her, but she just gave him a pat on the back. Athena took note of Leonora's expression and said, "It's so nice to meet you, Mrs. Manf. I mean Ellie." Although Artemis was still troubled by the idea of marriage, she had to concede that the woman was interesting. "It's nice to meet you as well, Ellie. Thank you for being so patient for this elderly, it's just so fun to tease Naruto." Hey, there was nothing more Naruto could say. "Alright. My husband may be wondering what trouble I've been up to, so I had better leave. I sincerely hope we can get together again soon, ladies. Both females smiled courteously and said, we hope to see you too. Before leaving, Eleonora said goodbye to them. Naruto heard Artemis say, at least your hotel tour is different from the other usual tours. Artemis's statement prompted Athena to agree, saying, true, it's quite endearing. Yes, and it's not like you can play pranks on an elderly woman. I really do love her in that way. Ellie likes both of you, so it's final. You can anticipate receiving a box full of treats when you visit their bakery. Artemis's immediate response caused Naruto and Athena to giggle lightly. I'll be there on my next day off. The tour continued without any further excitement, and Athena and Artemis bid Naruto a respectful farewell, and thanked him for another enjoyable visit. They first visited the garden and playground, which were only occupied by a few of the children who came with their parents. They then returned inside to see the remaining floors, from their own gym and entertainment areas, to a quick glance on a couple of the rooms. After what had been perhaps the longest drive he had ever taken, Naruto was finally in Connecticut, at last able to get out of the car, and now that he had so much energy, he was ready for some adventure, which he meant loosely to mean wandering around, because Naruto had only ever been to New York, so this was an adventure to him. He would first go to the local police station to get the current list of missing or runaway children. It was a brief stop, and they gave Naruto the name of the boy who was always on the run, and was typically found in the nearby forest. They told him that they had only found him 3 days prior, but the mother had told them that the boy had run away again just yesterday. To Naruto's surprise, they also gave him the boy's home address. The blonde's best course of action was to go to the specified address and talk to the mother, but the best course of action was to go straight to the forest, so he could keep the kids safe. The boy had run away so many times, but that doesn't mean he knew the forest like the back of his mind. Naruto was still angry about the way their police force was handling the situation, but he didn't have the time or patience to lose his cool in front of the police. Even though he was surrounded by lush grass and robust, healthy trees, Naruto felt incredibly at ease as he looked around. This was in contrast to New York, where all of the city's powerful buildings were located. However, this did not mean that he lost his love for New York City, as his family was still there. He was unable to take his eyes off the city's natural beauty, and it did help that his senses were more open to the beauty of his surroundings. He closed his eyes and pressed his palms together, just against his chest, in a stance that broadened his senses, as if he were looking for the closest form of human life. He knew that what he was doing was illogical, but it worked for him when something caught his attention, and the source of life he was focusing on was different from the animals that lived in the forest. Its action felt more sluggish and erratic. He made the decision to act right away, even though it might not be the child. Without being constrained by the natural barriers that the forest offered, Naruto ran faster than he believed he could, vaulted off every enormous rock, and jumped over every barrier with ease. The thing that Naruto stumbled upon was the most hideous combination of animals he had ever seen. It had a lion's body and a long, scorpion-like tail, but that wasn't the most strange thing he saw. It was his human-like face. The tail appeared to be ready to shoot spikes at its prey. In fact, he thought it looked cool, but he wasn't about to compliment a monster that ate children. Naruto charged and swung at the monster's face, causing it to tremble, before he flashed towards the boy to carry him to safety. After the boy was a safe distance away from the monster, he took cautious steps, keeping his hands on guard in an orthodox stance, in case the monster retaliated. The monster laughed loudly and said, "Immortal. How wonderful it is to be blessed with more food." He flipped away from it out of reflex, but as he landed, he felt its paw leave the ground, and felt the force rip right through his abdomen. The thing was as resilient as it appeared, and it was instantly back up and cutting its paw towards him. When it swung its scorpion tail at him, he waited for the last second to avoid it, but it came to a sudden stop when Naruto blocked its strike with his bare hands. With a sudden change of plans, he wrapped his arms around its tail and threw it high in the air, only to slam it back on the ground. He felt blood in his mouth, was perspiring, and felt his heart pounding in his chest. When Naruto saw that it would not be rising anytime soon, he made sure to keep it from rising for the rest of its life, and he heard the faint crack of its bones cracking, as he delivered a final axe kick directly to his neck. His breath still came in sharp gasps, but he turned to where he had left the boy, and when he saw that the boy was nowhere to be found, panic filled his chest. He was about to look for the boy when he noticed a bright flash of light, and then he saw a blue-eyed, blonde man next to the boy he had taken to safety. "Man, I knew you were gonna rock it." Naruto was accustomed to the strange crap by this stage in his life. "And you are Lester Papadopoulos." The Sun and Light God had no excuse for not revealing his true identity to Naruto, but he enjoyed the looks he got when he gave them his fictitious last name. Naruto was laughing so hard that he nearly burst a vein. "Really, yeah, you certainly look like a Lester Papadopoulos," he said, examining every inch of his looks, from his golden hair to his toes. How dare Apollo's blonde counterpart ruin his fictitious name? "It's Papadopoulos." Apollo's expression faltered. "I understand. But honestly, what's your name? You can't prank a prankster." That made the blonde with the whiskers laugh a lot, which helped to reduce the adrenaline surge that was still in his veins. "Apollo. I'm Naruto. What are the odds that I meet another person named after some Greek god or goddess? He asked, tapping his chin thoughtfully. Apollo gave him a silly smile and pointed to his body, saying, "Oh, but I am sculpted like a Greek god." "Hey, comedians are my favorite," he chuckled at his own face. "You're a fool." "No, you are." After being silent the entire time, the toddler eventually said, "Both of you are idiots." It was like discovering their own twin, but in Apollo's case, a twin that was quite similar to him. Naruto and Apollo grinned at one another before slamming their fists together and declaring, "We are idiots." Before focusing on Apollo, Naruto patted the sour boy's hair and said, back on the serious note, "What were you doing here?" "I truly didn't intend to be here. But I had a bad feeling that something bad was going to happen here on this day." Apollo was being honest when he said that he knew Naruto was in trouble and had arrived in the middle of the fight. He would have been on his way once he realized that Naruto could easily defeat the Manticore and was handling it well, but he chose to stay after seeing the scared child that Naruto was protecting. "I saw you kick some ass, so I stayed to protect the kid." They both gave each other a fist bump. "Thanks, man. But the actual question is, what was it?" Before Naruto could ask another question, Apollo responded, "It's a Manticore. They're man-eaters." The blonde with the whiskers rubbed his temple and said, "Oh funk, so that's why it was glad to see me. You know what, that's enough information for me today. I'm Juice." He looked around for the child and relaxed when he noticed him sitting quietly on the grass. "You will need the rest, man." Naruto ran to embrace Apollo like a brother, saying, "Don't I know it? Anyway, thanks for staying and for being there for the boy." "No issue. Naruto, it was a pleasure to meet you. Now go, I'll be in charge of the cleanup," he said, gesturing for them to depart. "Once again, thank you, Apollo." Naruto instructed the child to follow him out of the forest. "If you ever visit New York, you can find me in Eternal Hearth, located at 90 Bedford Street. Until then, see you." Once they were quite a distance away, that was the last thing Naruto heard from Apollo. "Hello, I'm Naruto said, concentrating on the sandy blonde child who appeared too young to be fleeing from home. "Naruto. I know." Naruto had put his hand on the boy's head, and he was aware from experience that a simple act of affection might make someone more receptive. "Luke." Luke Hasselin. Luke has yet to meet Naruto's gaze. "It's nice to meet you, Luke," he said, but there was no response. "You know, I was looking for you. I'm happy I arrived on time." Luke looked up at Naruto at last and said, "But nobody ever looks for me." "Yes, I did. Aren't I here?" At Luke's assent, Naruto grinned and said, "Your mother was also searching for you." With a frown, the younger blonde said, "My mom can't really go and look for me." "And why do you believe that?" "For their children, mothers would stop at nothing." Luke's eyes were already watering. "Because they think my mom isn't mentally well." With a single glance, Naruto witnessed all the emotions suppressed by a 5-year-old child. After that comment, Luke's eyes began to well up with tears, and Naruto knelt before him, his arms over the youngster's shoulder. "Is that why you persisted on running? You wanted to flee this location, away from the people?" Luke nodded despite the fact that snot was suddenly coming out of his nose. "But you always returned. You returned all those times for your mother. I take it you wanted her with you." Naruto knew he had reached the mark when the continuous torrent descended after the rest of his barriers were destroyed. In an attempt to calm the emotional turmoil in the young blonde's heart, he took Luke into his embrace and held him tightly. For a moment, he was afraid that he had hurt Luke, but then he felt sorry for him when he felt him put his little arms around his neck. He continued to soothe Luke by gently massaging his back, while the boy's little hands gripped his New York Knicks sweatshirt. This is why he loved the idea of the hotel. It was his dream because he could help kids like Luke and keep them on the right path. Finally, after everyone had cried out, Luke added, "You know my original plan was to take you home." Luke's blue eyes begged Naruto not to take him back as he removed his head from his shoulder to gaze at him. "I meant to say, I'm going to New York with you. Home, with me." His vivid blue eyes glowed rapidly with anticipation. Home. He clutched Naruto tighter. Luke finally felt like he was gonna be where he belonged. Where he would find the people who understood him. Who wouldn't think he was crazy if he told them he was a demigod, just like what they were saying to his mother. "I'll be home." Luke whispered against his shirt. "Don't get overly thrilled, though. In order to bring your mother along, we must visit your home." Luke covered his blush, ashamed that he had forgotten about his own mother. "Oh, I forgot. What are you waiting for? Come on." The little kid was exhausted, and Naruto simply laughed at his excitement. "I'm envious of you," Naruto said, entering the car in a relaxed silence with Luke fast asleep in his arms. Since he knew the young one would not respond, he drove to Luke's address. "I'm honestly as tired as you, I want my sleep too." May Castellan hurried to the door when she heard a knock, and when she opened it, she was surprised to see her baby boy in the arms of a stranger. She gasped when she saw that the man and Luke appeared to have just rolled out of the ground. "My baby," she motioned for the stranger to enter the house right away. Naruto laid Luke gently on the couch and said, "He's okay, ma'am. He's just asleep. He's just tired from what happened earlier." "What took place?" He nervously ran his fingers through his hair and said, "I'm Naruto. I know I don't look very presentable, but I want to introduce myself before I answer that. It was me who discovered your son lost in the woods." "Thank you, Naruto." She gave him a shy grin and introduced herself as Mei Castellan. "I'll get right to the narrative. I understand that it's crazy and that you might not believe me. However, your son was standing in front of a massive lion-scorpion hybrid as I was searching for him. It had the tail of a scorpion and the body of a lion. The strangest thing, though, was that it had a man's head. In any case, I managed to get Luke into a secure location. He was now pacing the room. After defeating that monster, I met Apollo, a strange but kind man, and now I'm here. Isn't that unbelievable?" When Mei had been silent for 5 minutes, Naruto went on, "But the reason I went here and searched for Luke was to take him to a safer place, where he will grow up with enough guidance and be surrounded by people who support him." Mei's expression ranged from fear to panic, likely worried about her child's safety. "However, you must be present for Luke to have all of his supporters. A place of safety for you both. I apologize. This is my first time helping a family in need. Are you in or out, then?" She looked around the house before focusing on her son, and all she could think about was that, even though she had many wonderful memories of their small house, she would never sacrifice her child's safety for it. She may have gone completely crazy, but she still felt a deep sense of love for her Luke, and she said, "I'm in. So you don't think I'm lying, you believe me?" She started to say, "Of course but was interrupted by a cry as she witnessed what may have happened to Luke if Naruto hadn't stopped him. She was unable to comprehend what she had seen and ended up clutching her head. Acting quickly, Naruto walked across the room to embrace her and used soft words to soothe her. "Hey." She didn't calm down in his arms, but when she heard him whisper, "Think about Luke, Luke will always take away the pain." It was that simple. Her son was now all she had. The rest of her tears were ready and came in an uninterrupted stream after the first one. "My boy." In order to prevent herself from hyperventilating, she took slow breaths. "There we go." He withdrew from the embrace to gently dab at her tears. "Is it better now?" With a nod, she said, "Thank you." Luke has been watching the scene, unbeknownst to them both, ever since he heard his mother gasp. Luke was horrified when he believed his mother was having another episode, and he was shocked when he heard her call his name. However, she didn't notice him. She only thought of him while she was trying to calm herself. Luke leaped from the couch and embraced his mother, saying, "Mom. I love you, Mom. I'll always be here for you, regardless of what those folks think. I cherish you." Strong bonds were what kept people alive and hopeful for the future, so Naruto was patient to wait them out, but as he was about to leave the room, he was interrupted by his mother and son, calling his name. Both mothers wept and showered each other with so much love that Naruto felt he shouldn't be witnessing such a private moment. "What time are we leaving?" Mei inquired. "Are you comfortable with it once you've packed your belongings?" "I don't mind at all." Mei's kid grinned up at her, saying, "We don't have much, but we do have each other." They were going to start again, live a better life that her son deserved. "I'm going to pack my things now." Luke bolted for his bedroom. "I will always mean what I say, even though I know I've said it before." "Naruto, thank you. It's truly a pleasure for me. How about we gather our belongings? We still have to make a stop at the neighborhood grocery so I can get provisions for our trip to New York." New York. The idea of their new living situation made her anxious, so she bit her lip. "It's been a while since I've been to New York," she said. "That's alright. Life is full of surprises, and that is how it operates. But what matters most is that you have Luke, and now you have me." He gave her his trademark smile and thumbs up. "Then let us pack." After hours of packing, they finally arrived at the closest store to buy some food for their road trip. The locals stared at them for 2 reasons. First, they didn't really care that Naruto and Luke were still covered in dirt, and second, practically everyone knew the local crazy woman. The trio chose to ignore this until Naruto and Mei noticed a single woman closely following them, while doing her best to blend in. In a quiet voice, Naruto questioned Mei, "Are you familiar with her?" "No, but just give her space to do what she wants. The sooner we ignore her, the sooner we will forget about her." Naruto left the words hanging, saying, "Okay, but if she steps over the line?" When the cashier punched off every item they had purchased, the shady woman eventually said, "You might want to check the boy's bag," which infuriated Naruto, who had been following them all the way to the checkout. "Do you not find them suspicious looking? I've been keeping an eye on them in case they steal something. However, I would double verify if I were you." Pardon me. Naruto had enough. He knew he wasn't presentable, but that lady was gonna get it. Mei placed her palm against his chest, trying to calm him down. He wasn't gonna cause any trouble, so he faced the cashier and told him, "I'll pay for hers and our groceries." He handed the cashier a couple of $100 bills, then looked straight at the rude woman. "Ma'am, do you need anything else? Because, if I'm being completely honest, that thinking looks awful." The woman was stunned by that. The 3 of them waited for the cashier to hand Naruto his change and punch in the woman's things before heading out. While his other hand held their goods, Naruto took Luke's hand in his. Mei, who was grinning broadly, was standing across from Luke. It had been a long time since someone had defended both her and her kid. After they left the store, Luke just gazed up at Naruto in wonder. That was really awesome, Naruto, it was official. Luke has fallen in love with Naruto. You understand, Luke? Words can be more powerful than a sword at times. I can talk from experience. The longer Luke looked at Naruto, the more his eyes seemed to shine. Never let anyone talk down on you or your mother. Though she certainly didn't envision this as part of her and her son's future, Mei smiled at Naruto, and silently thanked whoever had brought them together.